Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. I am Luke Lipinski.
And I'm Doug Cannon.
On this week's show, we preview the Metro. Can Sergei Bobrovsky defend his Vezina against 5 of the best goal scorers around? How high is the first-round pick the Devils have to forfeit? And why the Rangers better win now?
Also on today's show, we will tell Columbus to go east, young man. And we will ask the burning question, can Andre-Marc Fleury find consistency?
All that and more, plus Neil Yakupov's new goal celebration. Let's drop the puck on episode 17. Here we go, Doug. The Metropolitan Division preview. We've already made it through the Atlantic and the Central, and now we're at your favorite division. You're already making obscene hand gestures. What are your thoughts?
I'm just going to call it the Metro.
Okay.
I'm not going to crack any more jokes. I'm just going to call it the Metro.
Well, to be fair, Metropolitan, that's a lot of syllables. So we like to trim everything down in the world of hockey.
Just doesn't roll off the tongue.
So we're going with the Metro Division.
Yes.
Set the scene. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. It's about 180 degrees outside.
It's very hot here.
I think I'm losing my voice. I may, in fact, have Bieber fever.
Uh-oh.
I hope not. I've seen the people that have caught that, and I don't want to be one of those people.
No. And I'm in the same room, so let's not have that.
Well, don't worry. I'm pretty sure Bieber fever isn't contagious.
Okay.
So the Metro Division, we're going to do like we've done for the last two divisions. At least one burning question for each club. This is an 8-team division, and there is some serious offensive firepower in this one. So let's start with a team that didn't have much offensive firepower last year.
But I disagree.
Okay.
They
did.
You
don't even know what team I'm going to say.
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
You're going to say
did.
Carolina.
Well, maybe I should change it now.
But they did have some firepower.
They did, but they didn't use it.
They didn't use it, or
they had injuries last year.
They had injuries. And in a key position.
Well, yeah, goaltender Cam Ward, I believe, played 17 games last year, 19 games. He's so important to this team. Look, before we get into Carolina, I was looking at this before we did the show. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2008-2009 season. It kind of seems weird. You would think you think they're at least a playoff team. That year they made the conference finals, got swept by Pittsburgh. Then they didn't make it for 2 years before that. 2006 they won the Stanley Cup. Then they didn't make it for a few years before that. Then they made the Stanley Cup. So if this team makes the playoffs, they go deep. They just don't make the playoffs all that often. And I don't think they're going to make it again this year.
But they have so much talent. So my question for this team was Cam Ward not being in the lineup the true effect of them not making the playoffs? Because they have some really, really strong offensive power on this team.
They do. You got to bring it all together. And so Eric Stahl obviously is the key
53
here.
points.
He was fine last year, though. That's what worries me. If he's having that good of a year and you still miss the playoffs,
His
you
younger
can't ask any more.
His younger brother had 31.
Okay, so they have Jordan Stahl too. Alexander Semin, Jeff Skinner, who was the Rookie of the Year a couple years back. But there's a bit of a drop off after that. I don't know. To me, like this is the definition of just an average NHL team. There's obviously talent because this is the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this is a middle-of-the-pack team. If they make the playoffs, they're going to be one of the last teams to make it. If they miss the playoffs, they're going to be one of the final teams to miss the playoffs. They're just kind of hovering there right in the middle.
Yeah, but, I mean, like even on the blue line, they lost Pitkinen to injuries. So now we're talking goalies. We're talking key defensive players. Again, I think with some of the offensive talent that they have, that if they can fix that back end. So my question is, they brought in, come on, Anton Kupinin to play behind Cam Ward.
Well, yeah, that's got to be big because the guys that filled in for Cam Ward last year didn't do anything.
Right.
The Dan Ellis of the world.
So now you got a solid backup.
Solid in Boston.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a good goaltender, so he should push Cam Ward. So you should get a little bit more out of Cam Ward. And then hopefully you can fix your blue line a little bit.
Well, I think our questions are fairly similar here. I mean, you look at Carolina last year, you wonder how much injuries played a role, if it was just an off season, if they were one of those teams that got hurt by it being a 48-game schedule. To me, I kind of have the flip side of that as a question. Did they do enough to improve? I'm looking at the players they added. Elias Lindholm is supposed to be a very good prospect, but he was just taken in the draft 2 months ago. Yeah, so then your other additions are Mike Komisarek. I don't remember the last time he scored a goal. Anton Khudobin. He's a good addition, but he's also a backup. He's not going to be a game changer for you. Nathan Gerby, I mean, he has a lot to prove, but those are your additions. So they really haven't done anything to improve. Right. Last year was when they made the improvements, when they added Semin and they added Jordan Stahl. and they didn't improve. So I don't know where I'm at on Carolina, but I'm not.
Well, I mean, Jordan Stahl didn't disappoint, man. Like I said, he finished with 31 points.
But that worries me. He didn't disappoint. Eric Stahl didn't disappoint, and they still missed the playoffs by quite a bit.
Yeah, I think if they shore up that back end, I think they just need to shore up that back end. So, come on, you have to count on your goaltenders to win you a couple of games.
Yeah, but in this division, you have to be able to score, too. I mean, we're going to get to the teams in this division that can score a lot of goals, and there's quite a few of them.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know about Carolina. We'll get more to them, but Carolina's a team that, and this could be a big season for them. They're either going to get back on track, or they could be really heading in the wrong direction. This switch out of that Southeast division could be tough for them.
So then you move to Columbus, and you ask the question.
Don't ever say I'm moving to Columbus.
It's a nice city, man.
I'm sure it is.
It really is.
I would like to
very
visit
nice.
Columbus.
It's very wholesome.
Maybe I'll move to Columbus then.
It's a very wholesome city. Nice arena. Really
very
nice
arena. That is true.
Very nice arena.
And I like that they're having some success, finally.
But they've made improvements.
They have.
And I think it starts with a guy by the name of John Davidson. When he's in charge of a team, he doesn't wait.
Yeah.
He makes moves, he makes changes, and they're typically for the good. I mean, St. Louis, when he was in St. Louis turned things around quickly.
We already saw it with Columbus last year. They missed the
Absolutely.
playoffs, but they almost make the playoffs.
Yeah, they were right there. I mean, they finished, ninth in the West.
They've never won a playoff game, that's tough. Not
tough.
They've never won a cup, or they've never won a series. No, they've never won a playoff game. They've only been there once. They got swept by Detroit. But you just touched on it. Last year they made a nice push, mainly on the shoulders of Sergei Bobrovsky. But look, I mean, last year before the season they have to give up Rick Nash. Mm-hmm. So last year could have been a horrible year for Columbus. Mm-hmm. They give up the face of their franchise, and instead of folding, they get the guys that they got back for Rick Nash. Those guys come together. The Derek Brassards of the world. They play better hockey as a team. And Columbus, they were a fun story last year. I don't know if it's going to continue this year, but last season they were a very fun story.
You know me. I like my goaltenders. I like my blue line. This team has it.
Well, they won you got the Vezina winning goalie back there. You've got the goaltending you need.
You got Wisniewski.
Yeah.
You got Jack Johnson. You got Tuuttinen. Did I pronounce that right?
Tuutin.
They got a good blue
It's okay.
line.
He's only signed 5 more years, so you got 5 more years to work.
Practice. I can practice.
Yeah, Ryan Murray too, the young rookie from a couple years ago. They are definitely a team on the rise. They don't have a ton of firepower, but here's the guy that gets lost in all this. They go out and sign Nathan Horton. He's signed for the next 7 years.
$37 million.
And that is my question. Is he going to be worth the money? Because on the one hand, I like that Columbus is now a destination for free agents, and that they're out there and they're players on the scene. Yeah, I mean they're trying to make a move on the open market, which you have to respect that. But Nathan Horton has an injury history, and also he was having a lot of success playing in Boston, where he had a lot more experienced, maybe, teammates that could help make him better. Not to take away from what he did there, but now he's kind of the man in Columbus.
Well, maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe that's what he was looking for. Maybe that's what drives him. That's his motivation. I mean, he was clear in every press conference and every interview that I saw or read that Columbus was the city I wanted to go to. So
that's what you want. You want a guy that wants to be there.
Right. So it's not a player that's making a lot of money in a city he doesn't want to be in. And I mean, I people just don't give enough credit to the mental part of the game. Here's a guy that's not on the bench going, I'm here because my agent got me a good deal. He's there because I want to play here. I want to be the guy. I want to make the lot of money. I want to be here. And there's some talent on this team.
Well, I think what you're saying right there is a very good point that people look past too, because it gets to a certain level and they say, well, whatever, these guys are professionals. They're extremely talented.
They're people.
That's true up to a point. Yeah, but if you want to get that extra push to go from one of the best athletes in the world to having a great season at the NHL level, you have to really want it.
Right.
That's the difference. I mean, all these games are 1 or 2 goal games.
I'm racking my brain now to try to find an example, but I mean, when a guy's on a bench and he doesn't want to be there, they just don't perform. Yeah. Sure, they go out and they score goals and stuff, and I'm trying to...
How about Alex Burmistrov last year in Winnipeg? I know he's not necessarily a proven commodity, but he was a top 10 pick a couple years ago. Looked like he was going to get really good. Clearly did not want to be in Winnipeg because now he's gone.
Right. But the performance is just not. And another one that comes to mind is like Antropov. I mean, everywhere he's been kind of a sour grape type of guy, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
And he's where he wants to be. We'll watch, and we'll see what kind of numbers he puts up in the KHL.
Well, you might be watching. I'm not certain I'm going to watch Nick Antropov next year.
Well, I won't be watching him. I'll be following the KHL and the happenings inside the KHL.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying that if a guy mentally doesn't want to be there, they kind of check out and they just go through the motions.
And again, their motions are still better than anything you or I could do on the ice.
Correct.
Which is fine. So that's why you can look out there and say, well, look, he's still making these moves. He's obviously still a great player. That's fine, but you're never going to win that way. You're just never going to win if you don't want to be there.
Right, because you're going to get 20 goals out of him when you should be getting 40 goals out of him.
And he's not going to go into the corners late in the game and grind for the puck and get pushed around in front of the net to make a play to get one goal here or there. Columbus, by all accounts, got that from Nathan Horton. So if he can stay healthy, the other guy everybody forgets about, Marian Gaborik, is on the Blue Jackets. This is a guy that scores 40 goals. I mean, he's done it a few times. He's only there for one more year, but he's just kind of being looked over because he didn't have a great season in New York last year. But if he comes out of the gate the way we've seen him do it in the past and he breaks out with another 35 goals this season, that could be big.
He's a 40-goal guy.
And now he's in the Rangers division, too, so he gets to kind of pay back his old team.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Gaborik can be.
Yeah, no, he's dangerous, and he's still relatively young. I guess my question for Columbus, aside from the Horton thing, is they're transitioning from the West to the East. We've talked about how those are different styles of games at a certain point, but particularly the Metro Division, there are a lot of teams that can score a lot of goals. Can Sergei Bobrovsky do what he did last year when he's facing Crosby and Giroux and Ovechkin?
See, that was my question, was that the combination of strong young defensemen and Bobrovsky, can they, as a defensive core, win some games against some of these power? Because it's going to have to happen for them to succeed in this division.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Columbus maybe taking a step back, not being a bad team. And I think ultimately still heading in the right direction, but I just wonder if you look at them on paper and say they almost made the playoffs last year, so logic says they'll make it this year. They got some work.
I think they would have been a really good team if they stayed in the West.
Yeah. Or even if they were in the other division in the East.
And exactly. I mean, this is a strong division.
Yeah, it is. And we're starting off with the weaker teams.
Right.
Just by random draw.
And we really haven't said any real negative thing about the weaker teams.
No, but we will now. On to New Jersey. They lose Ilya Kovalchuk.
Okay, there's my question.
They lost him. There's my answer.
What's the impact?
It's huge. It's huge for so many reasons.
That's my question.
It's okay. Well, I'll answer this one for you. Not only are you losing your only real game breaker on offense, you lose Zach Parise last summer.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
You kind of get past that. I mean, they were still a solid team last year. Now you lose Kovalchuk. But again, this is the point. I'm glad somebody else finally brought this up because I was worried that I was wrong about this because I've been bringing it up ever since Kovalchuk left. They still have to give up their first-round pick for signing him to that deal that was borderline illegal.
Right.
Now, they could have done this 2 years ago when they had just been to the Stanley Cup and were giving up the 29th pick out of 30. They didn't do it. How high is that pick going to be this year? That's my question. That pick could be the first pick in the draft.
Well, they're not going to finish that bad this year.
If I had to guess, I wouldn't put them that bad, but they're not a playoff team.
Because I think that, and we'll get into it later in the show, but I think with
Calgary still in the league? Oh, okay.
Ownership being solidified, that black cloud is lifted now.
True.
Everybody can take a deep breath. We're okay. We got new owners that know the area. Like I said, I don't want to get into it here, but
you can't underestimate that, though.
No. Kovalchuk, though, and I don't know why he didn't pop. There's a guy that underperformed. There's a guy that was somewhere he didn't want to be.
Apparently. His story, they gave up so much money to get him.
He had 11 goals last year.
Yeah, but he had 31 points, which is still second on the team.
Yeah, I know he's second on the team, but I'm just saying, to me, in a shortened season, I would have... Stahl had 53 points. Kovalchuk has 31 points.
Well, here's
Jordan Stahl did as well as
Stahl did that, yeah.
As well as Kovalchuk.
But look at Kovalchuk. His run since he came over to New Jersey from Atlanta. Okay, so 2009-10 season, he was clearly... There was a lot of talk that he was kind of out of place. He started 2010-11, didn't fit in with the system that they were running there. Still finished with 60 points. 11-12, they make the Stanley Cup. He has 83 points. So you know what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
But it did seem like once Parise left, and it was clear the Devils weren't going anywhere anytime soon, I don't want to say he checked out, but he certainly his production dropped off, and now he has officially checked out because he's in the KHL.
Okay, so let's forget about him. He's gone. How much weight do we give the goaltending on this team?
I think it just comes down to how they handle it.
I mean, you've got like two of the best.
You do. You have an up-and-comer who's a very good young goalie, and Corey Schneider, I want to say he's 27 now. So
right.
Still, I mean, by goalie standards, that's very young.
And then you got like the best.
Maybe the best ever.
Right. And Brodeur. And what better tutelage do you want as a young goaltender? To be on the ice, in the locker room, next to Martin Brodeur.
I like the accent.
I like that, huh?
Yeah, really kind
Comment ça va? Ça va bien?
Now you've lost me. Yeah, I didn't take language in school. This could be a very nice situation for New Jersey, and I think they will handle it right because Brodeur, by all accounts, was happy that they brought Schneider. And Brodeur can't play forever. Maybe he can, but I don't think he's going to play forever.
Marty's, 41 now, right?
So let's say this is his last year. Let's just say that's he goes out, plays this year.
Oh, I see a press release. New goaltending coach, Martin Brodeur.
Yeah, why not? So let's just say this is last year. He transitions out nicely. You have Schneider to spot start and probably play, I don't know, a decent amount of games. Let's say close to 50-50 because, again, you got the Olympic break, so the schedule's condensed. Then if Brodeur wants to go out on his own terms, New Jersey got a potential top 5, top 10 goalie down the line for a draft pick. I mean, they completely fleeced Vancouver because they knew Vancouver had to make a trade.
Right.
So credit them, and that's why New Jersey won't be terrible. You're right. They're not gonna have the first pick because they have Pete DeBoer behind the bench, and they've got two very good goalies. And this is a team that tends to overachieve, but I don't think they're a playoff team.
I'm still crunching that in my head.
Okay.
I'm not.
What do you think the ratio for goalie starts is between those two?
I think you're probably right with the 50-50 or a 60-40 split.
In favor of Brodeur?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always going to be in favor of Martin. I mean, he's just proven. And Corey, as good as he is, he can't walk in there and expect to be given anything. And, I mean, you're the young gun. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to take it away from Martin.
He's used to that.
Yeah. And so I just think Martin will probably get the majority of the ice time. And that's the way it should be.
A couple other things on New Jersey, because they're actually one of the more interesting teams. They have Jaromir Jagr.
That's right. They picked up Yogs.
I mean, again, every team adds Jaromir Jagr every year, it seems like. But they hadn't done it yet, so this is kind of a new thing for them. I don't know if he's a guy that if they don't make the playoffs gets traded again at the trade deadline. He's played on pretty much every team in the Eastern Conference, it feels like. But they do add him. They had to add somebody because they lost Kovalchuk. I mean, they still have money if they want to go out and get a guy like Damian Brunner, although I'm apparently the only guy who thinks Damian Brunner is good at hockey other than his agent.
Yeah, I just, other than cap space, I don't have any clue why that boy hasn't been signed.
Mikhail Grabowski's another one that maybe New Jersey could go after, or maybe this is just their team and they're going to see what they can do with it. You know, the strength will certainly be in net, but they do have some familiar names. I'll tell you what, if this was 1994, they have a great team with Patrick Elias and Jaromir Jagr up front. So that's New Jersey. You have anything else on the Devils?
No, let's just go to John Tavares' team.
Right. So the Islanders last year, pretty encouraging season, I thought. Now, I don't know. Maybe that was another example of it being a 48-game season. They were able to sneak into the playoffs, but they looked very good in the first round for patches there. I mean, they lose to the Penguins in 6 games. Game 6, though, went to overtime. A couple of those games went to overtime, and there were certainly stretches in that series where their team speed was too much for Pittsburgh to handle, and Pittsburgh's one of the best teams in the league. If you can measure up against them and you're a young team on the rise, that's a good sign for the Islanders wherever they're going to be playing.
So why did they make the playoffs?
John Tavares.
Yeah.
It's not just him, but he had a ridiculous season, and he's only getting better. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think he's going to really have a drop-off at all.
Well,
47 points last year. 48 games. 28 goals, 19 assists.
well,
Hart Trophy finalist.
They didn't make the playoffs because of Rick DiPietro.
No. No, they did not.
The thing I like about this team is
that you can make fun of Rick DiPietro every year. You can't do it anymore. He's not on the team anymore. So take that.
Young, quick.
fun to watch.
The top 5 point getters for this team distribute the puck. That's what I like about this. Yeah, you can say that Tavares had 47 points, but 19 of his 47 points were assists.
Which is impressive from him because he's a natural goal scorer.
Right.
So
you go to Molson.
Yeah, he's completely just rejuvenated his career on Long Island.
Right. But again, he's distributing the puck. So these top 5 guys, these top 5 scorers for this team are moving that puck around, and one of them is Mark Streit.
Yeah.
So
I like that they're a little bit crazy. That's my favorite thing with the Islanders is you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah, this is a funny.
2 years ago they go out and they have to draft. They feel like they need defense. Mm-hmm. They wanted to trade up. They couldn't get the player they wanted, so they used 7 draft picks on 7 defensemen. So their whole team from the draft in 2012, all they did was draft defensive players. So this year they go out, they add Cal Clutterbuck, they add Pierre-Marc Bouchard. They end up losing Brad Boyes, who was the third leading scorer. They lose Mark Streit, who was a pretty solid anchor on D. Keith Aucoin, and as you mentioned, Rick DiPietro. But still a pretty solid lineup with Wisniewski on D. Travis Hamonic was very good against Crosby in the playoffs. There's a lot of pieces here in place, but they didn't address goaltending. And I don't know, I guess technically Tim Thomas was most recently an Islander, but he never played for him.
Well, my thing is that they only have Tavares, really. I mean, they have the top 5 guys, but Tavares is this franchise, and they need some more supporting role around him. Even though he distributes the puck and he involves others, they all lean on him. Like when Streit was with them, he had 27 points.
Yeah, he was a good veteran presence from the blue line.
But you're not going to have that distribution from the blue line this year.
No, because Philadelphia did what they always do, and they panicked and overpaid for a defenseman, and so now the Islanders don't have Mark Streit.
And I agree with you 100%. The big glaring question is they didn't look between the pipes. And I think that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, because now, again, every time a team has a question mark in goal, Tim Thomas' name comes up. He doesn't seem to want to play for the Islanders. They don't really seem to want him.
Well, we laughed about it before we started recording. I mean, the Islanders is a funny franchise. You just never know what story is going to come off the island next. And, of course, 2015-16, they're supposed to go to Brooklyn, right, and play out of the Barclays Center.
That's the story. That's the rumor so far.
Well, I just saw a story where they're going to renovate the Coliseum in 2015.
Yeah, why not?
And make it nice and big and pretty and
want it to look
make
nice.
it an entertainment district and do all these wonderful things to the Coliseum. Why didn't you do that before when the ownership of the Islanders was asking you to?
Yeah.
You waited till they left?
That's like having a house that you just don't take care of. And then when it's just about to be
I got to sell it now.
Yeah.
I got to paint
it. Then you fix it up when they're about to knock it down. So that's the Islanders.
I think the Islanders will struggle.
See, I don't think they will. They're right in the middle there. But I think I'm higher on the Islanders than you are because there was a lot of encouraging signs in those playoffs last year. Again, without goaltending, though, if you lose that momentum, then you start that backslide, and then all of a sudden you're just looking at Tavares and Molson. I don't know. This is a pivotal year for them, wherever they're going to play, whatever they're doing to their arena.
They got to have that speed for 82 games this year, not 48. They got to go 82 games, and if you don't have anybody that can stop the puck, you're going to have a long season.
You know what the Islanders are? The Islanders are kind of like Nicolas Cage in that their own career trajectory might not be that great, but they can make life difficult for a lot of other people. That's what the Islanders are.
But they won't win.
Well, no.
They're going to make life difficult for others, but they're not going to win. I don't see them in the playoffs.
Oh, bold words. All right, we'll get to that later. You're tuned into the Hockey Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Hockey Podcast for even more hockey news.
# do it.
Second half of the Metro Division, clearly the tougher half of this division, and we got through.
We're only looking at it alphabetically, folks.
Yeah, it just randomly worked out this way. But let's jump right in with the New York Rangers, who fired John Tortorella in the offseason, or however they worded it. They relieved him of his duties. So
he was fired.
I guess nobody gets fired anymore. They replace him with Alain Vigneault, which is
Alain Vigneault.
See, I hesitate to say anything in French because I know you're going to run with it. And now Tortorella's over in Vancouver replacing Alain Vigneault, so kind of two teams trading coaches. Vigneault, though, steps into an interesting situation with the Rangers because this is a team that was picked by a lot of people last year to maybe win the Stanley Cup. They obviously didn't do that.
Dude, they had the talent.
I think they still have the talent, to be honest.
Well, I don't disagree.
But
I just don't know if they're going to do it.
They only have it this year. If you look at this team, Henrik Lundqvist is a unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Now, look, they go out there and have a solid season. Even if they do what they did last year and win a playoff series, I think he comes back. He loves New York. He's part of the community there. Everybody there loves him. I think just in his mind, maybe, speaking for him now, without a Swedish accent, that's interesting, maybe he just sees the coaching switch as a change in the right direction. Something. I think as long as they don't just completely fall apart this year, he comes back. However, everybody else on the team, with the exception of Rick Nash and Brad Richards and Ryan McDonough, is either a restricted or unrestricted free agent after this season or after next season. Everybody on the team. This whole entire roster could look completely different as soon as next year if they really have a bad season.
Where are they cap-wise? Do you know off the top of your head?
They're up near the top, but, I mean, that's all going to change coming up. What are the Rangers? They're 10th right now in terms of cap space, but a lot of that's going to change because some of those teams, like the Flyers, who we'll get to, are over the cap. So some shifting is still going to happen.
Yeah, but where's Taylor Pyatt going to go?
He's going to go where Alain Vigneault tells him to go. I mean, he's unrestricted after this year, too. Brian Boyle, Ryan Callahan.
Well, first of all, it's all going to depend on the 82 games that are in front of him right now. Because when you're in that position of either a UFA or an RFA, it's all about performance. And your agent or your representation is not going to get you a dime if you don't perform.
And that's why this is an interesting team.
Because we know Lundqvist. I mean, Lundqvist is what he is, man. He's not gonna falter.
No, he's the best goalie in the world.
So, I mean, but the other guys. I mean, where was Nash? Where was Brad Richards? Where was all the talent on this team last year in a 48-game season?
Oh, I can tell you where Brad Richards was. He was on the fourth line. That's where he was. But so I don't know how much of that was Tortorella and his relationship. I don't know.
But still, okay, it goes back to attitude. We talked about it in the first segment. It goes back to attitude. Are you going to be a crybaby and sit on the fourth line at the end of the bench because coach told you to go down there? If that's me as an individual, I'm like, when I step on the ice, I'm going to skate, and I'm going to score, and I'm going to come back to the bench, and I'm going to say, hey, coach, what'd you think of that?
Yeah.
And I'll sit down, and I'll sit back down at the fourth, and I'll go out, and I'll do it again, and I'll go do it again, and I'll prove him wrong. Richards didn't do that.
No, you want to make your coach look bad in that situation.
Absolutely.
If that's the motivation. Look, Richards in the middle, regular season last year, 34 points, 46 games, not terrible. But in the playoffs, when this team just stopped producing, he had a goal. No assists, a goal. And for how much you're paying Brad Richards, $6.7 million a year, pretty much till the end of time, I think. You got to get more than that.
It's going to be this team's going to be interesting because you're right. You've got all these guys that are sniffing new contracts next year, and this is a performance team right now. This team has to perform if any of these guys want a fat check.
Which I think is a strange situation for a coach to step into. Now, fortunately,
it could be a good thing, though.
Yeah, he's one of Jack Adams. I mean, he's a solid coach. Yeah, it could be a great thing because some guys play better when they see the money on the table of, look, if I play better, I'm going to get more money next year. Mm-hmm. But the guys that can't respond to the pressure are going to fall apart. This team's going to look different next year. It just is. But they could win the Stanley Cup this year. I don't think they will.
I don't think they will.
But they could.
They could.
They've got the goaltending. Let's just say Richards and Nash play the way that they were playing 2 or 3 years ago. You still have Callahan as your captain. You have a defense that blocks a ton of shots before they get to Lundqvist, and you have a goalie that stops everything. Even in a down year last year, they won a playoff series.
Again, I made the note before we started recording this segment that lots of talent. This team has just top to bottom, which is why last year you scratched your head every time. You're like, what? You finished 8th?
They didn't score a lot of goals either, and with that offense, you would think there would be more offense.
I feel bad.
How does that make sense? With that offense, you'd think there'd be more offense. That's brilliant right there. That's a fortune cookie waiting to happen.
That's like the commercial. Our offense is going to play defense, and our defense is going to play offense, and we're going to do that so we confuse the offense on the other team because they'll think they're playing our defense, and it's really our offense.
That might not have been a commercial. That might just have been Tortorella's pregame speech to start the season, because that's what this team did last year. So for the sake of organization, my question for this team, will they keep the core of this group together heading towards next year?
If the boys in blue are going to have any future past this season, you got to keep the core. You have to.
You got to perform.
And yes, they have to perform. This team is all built around. They got to perform this year.
Cannot, of all the years to underachieve, it can't be this year.
It can't be this year.
Speaking of underachieving, the Philadelphia Flyers missed the playoffs badly last year.
Now that is a segue.
Well,
that was beautiful.
You know my feelings on the Flyers, having grown up a Penguins fan. But this is a dangerous team. If they get all their guys together, and look, it pains me to say this, but I think of all the teams, I've brought this up over the last couple shows too, I think there were teams that were clearly hurt by a 48-game schedule and some that were helped. I think it's tougher to identify the teams that were helped, but I think it's clear that teams like Nashville and Phoenix over in the West were hurt, and maybe more than anybody else, Philadelphia was hurt, because they had a downswing and they just never got out of it. And with that media and that environment and the goalie they had last year, that all snowballed, and it's still inexcusable to me that this team with this talent couldn't make the playoffs after looking amazing against the Penguins in the playoffs the year before. But they didn't make the playoffs last year, and this is a big season for them too. Both of their goalies are free agents at the end of the year, and I don't know about the goaltending here. What do you think?
Well, they just signed Ray Emery.
I like Ray Emery. He signed for 1 year. He's making $1.65 million. He's got to be the guy. If Philadelphia thinks Steve Mason is going to split time with Ray Emery and they're going to make any sort of playoff run, then it's going to be more of the same.
I liked the Emery signing when I saw it.
I think he bailed them out to take so little money.
Absolutely. And that's why it's a 1-year deal. I think Ray, I'm a big fan of Ray Emery. I know when he started out in the league with Ottawa, got himself in a little bit of hot water. Was kind of shunned, went to Europe, came back, worked his way back into the league. Solid backup to Crawford in Chicago. I mean, just solid.
17-1.
He's really, really proven to me anyways that, you know what, we can all make mistakes and we can all correct it and we can all make ourselves better. And I think Ray Emery's that player that's done that, and he's going to be solid for Philly. And he's going to be the number one guy. Sorry, Steve Mason, you're going to have to take a back seat.
Sorry, Steve Mason, we've seen you play in the last 3 years.
That too. So they got a lot of defensemen on this team. What about offense?
Well, they've got all the offense they could ever want. And this is a team that right now is actually over the cap by just over $2 million. So they're going to have to shake a little bit up. But that's why Ray Emery was so huge. He comes there for $1.65 million. If he doesn't, what are they doing? Is it Steve Mason their starter? As a backup, Steve Mason might not be bad. But if they would have to chase down Tim Thomas and offer him no money, which he
let's
wasn't
climb
gonna take.
inside the head of Ray Emery and his agent. Why sign for one? Why sign for that kind of money? Why?
Because if he steps up, he can A, make a lot of money next year, and B, he could be on a winning team this year. He doesn't have to be amazing with this offense that we're about to talk about in front of him.
No, and like I said, they've got a pretty good defense too.
Yeah, and they have worked on building that up, but it obviously starts with Claude Giroux up front. Jakub Voracek looked better. They add Vincent Lecavalier. They've got Wayne Simmons, who I know you and I both like.
I
the way
love
he plays
Wayne
hockey.
Simmons.
Sean Couturier, still an up-and-comer. Matt Reed, undrafted, and yet all the guy does is score goals every year. So he's in line for a big contract next summer. This team's got offense. Again, we go back to that Penguins-Flyers series that was so epic 2 years ago when games were being won 8-6.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of those two teams scoring all those goals. Now they don't have Ilya Brzgalov in net, which I think is addition by subtraction.
And I think that, that's a big X factor because, players, when they step on the ice, they need to trust that guy between the pipes. I just don't think they did.
I would agree with that. I think that was clear just the way they played and the way that everything just kind of went down and he was let go and he's not on another team. Ilya Bryzgalov's such an odd guy because I don't think he means harm, but he's just different. And I know all goalies are different, but if you don't ingratiate yourself to your teammates in the locker room.
Yeah, but when you got your GM in front of the media saying, "Oh, he's playing,"
Yeah,
and the goalie's going, well, "I don't know if I'm playing."
that's not good.
That's gone.
I'm going to miss that.
Gone. It's all. Well, of course we're going to miss it because it's funny and it's a lot of fun to follow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
But
I think Ray Emery's...
No more Tiger stories.
Yeah, nothing. No more insight into the universe. It's kind of a shame. I think Ray Emery's going to be a little more stable.
Philly's going to be a tough team in this division.
Assuming Claude Giroux is healthy, and we'll get into that more.
Yeah,
I guess later on.
I'm going to say that's a nice nugget.
But I do think the main question for them, you can make this question for any team, but I think for Philadelphia it certainly applies, is goaltending, specifically Ray Emery.
Mm-hmm.
If he plays the way he did last year, this is a dangerous team. It's a playoff team, and it's a team you don't want to face in the postseason. If he falls apart and you're leaning on Steve Mason, who won Rookie of the Year a couple years ago and then has turned into a different player, they're in trouble. That's Philadelphia. On to Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh.
How's that for a segue?
Do we have to?
Oh, I'm ready to talk about Pittsburgh. Here we go.
Who's the starting goalie?
All right, you've just completely killed all the mojo I had. For
There
this.
you go.
I
knew I could do it.
Talk about this.
Who's the starting goalie?
Who should be the starting goalie, or who is the starting goalie?
I'm asking who is.
Marc-Andre Fleury is still the starting goalie. They're still paying him $5 million a year. He's fine in the regular season. Games don't matter in the regular season.
But they do matter.
With this offense, you're going to make the
top
playoffs.
Three. Only the top three, right?
Yeah, and this is a tough division. Boy, I hope I'm not eating my words here in like 8 months. Pittsburgh doesn't even make the playoffs because of their goaltending. That's the only way we agree that they could miss the playoffs, is if Fleury just goes Fleury for 82 games.
Okay, how many games do you think he's going to play?
Probably, I'd still put him around 50, 55.
Okay.
I mean, they have it in their mind, and maybe they're right, but they have it in their mind that they are only going to win the Stanley Cup, which, make no mistake about it, is the goal for this team, if Fleury is the man. Now, they almost got proven wrong and right last year because Vaughn, played well enough to win him 2 series, really probably played well enough to win him the Boston series, but everybody else just left.
Mm-hmm.
They were losing games 1-0. I don't know. I think Fleury is the goalie unless he has another meltdown.
Okay,
which will happen.
Let's move to the offensive side of the puck real quick. Where was all that firepower in the playoffs?
Well, it was there for the first 2 rounds,
mm-hmm.
and then it was all in Tuukka Rask's glove in the 3rd round.
Really?
Yes, that's where it was. He stopped everything.
Okay, that's how you're going to look at it.
Yes, I'm going to look at it that way. How should I be
spoken like
a
true Penguin fan?
No, you don't want me to. This is still a G-rated podcast. You don't want me to say everything I want to say. Where do you think it was?
I think they choked.
Well, they did choke. They absolutely choked. But
there's no reason for the firepower on this team to disappear. And I understand losing and all that stuff, but come on.
Okay, so wait, you have to distinguish here. Are you saying they choked because they lost to the Boston Bruins in the playoffs in the 3rd round, or because they scored 2 goals in that whole series? Okay. Because I don't have a problem with losing to the Bruins. That's a good hockey team.
Losing to a good team is fine. I don't have a problem with that either. But I don't have the numbers in front of me. But go from 20 goals to 2 goals.
Oh, it was like the first 2 rounds, they were one of the best offensive performers in playoff history. And then in the 3rd round, they literally were the worst ever.
So, without taking all the video and breaking it down and looking at every single game going, what the heck?
Yeah, I did that, except I said different words.
Why? Sidney Crosby's one of the best players in the game, and he can't find the back of the net.
You have to go player by player. Certain players just disappeared. I think Chris Kunitz retired, and now he's coming back out. I don't know what happened to him. Crosby, though, you watch some of those games, he was doing everything right except putting the puck in the net. And some of that you have to give credit to Tuukka Rask. You just have to.
Well, Boston shut him down pretty good.
They did, but look, okay.
Because I'll tell you what, in that series, Boston did a really good job of coming through. When they came through the neutral zone, when Penguins came through the neutral zone, they forced them wide.
So simple.
So it really is, isn't it?
But so many teams don't do it.
So they just found a way to force them wide and give Pittsburgh those low percentage shots. And those low percentage shots are going to be stopped by an NHL goalie every single time.
A quick recap of the scores in that series. Game 1 was 3-0 Bruins. So Vokoun was pretty solid in that game, lost 3-0. Game 2 was 6-1. Boston just ran away with it. You can have that in the series. But Game 3 in Boston, 2-1. I want to say double or triple overtime. And that, to me, was the game that Pittsburgh outplayed Boston, just couldn't beat Rask. Game 4, you could make a case they outplayed Boston, couldn't beat Rask, they lose 1-0. So you finally got goaltending. Vokoun gave up 6 goals over 3 of those games, and they couldn't win any of them.
It's tough. But I think that we talked about it last week. Boston's defense is strong, very, very strong, and they played a solid, because Boston didn't do it in the next series.
Well, because Chicago attacked the net as a team. Pittsburgh had Crosby attacking the net, which is really that's not why you have him. You have him to do all these other things. You need a big guy to attack the net. Chicago did it with guys like Brian Bickle and Dave Bolin that weren't afraid to go to the net. Pittsburgh had 1 or 2 guys going, and they lost badly.
Yeah, but they also, I watched, Boston was able to force Pittsburgh wide, I thought. I didn't see him doing it on a consistent basis against Chicago. Chicago just came at him hard.
Yeah.
Just came at him hard, came at him at the middle, too. So if you're coming down the middle and you're going to take that head-to-head battle down the middle, now the sides are open, and you can do all kinds of things to come to the net. But you're right, they crashed the net. They made stuff happen around the net.
And some of it's mental, too. I mean, Chicago realized they could score on Rask early in that series. Mm-hmm. And so then they didn't have that stigma of no matter what we do, he's going to stop it. And conversely, he didn't have that kind of in his mind of no matter what Chicago does, I'll stop it. With Pittsburgh, you could just tell especially after Game 3, but even after Game 2, it just didn't seem like they were ever going to beat Rask.
So I threw out the goalie question to you. How strong is this team mentally?
I think they're fine. I think they are fine across the board.
When adversity comes their way, how strong are they? Are they going to fold, or are they going to go? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a fair question, except they've won the Stanley Cup.
Well, I mean, they got a lot of divas.
I see what you're doing over there. You're trying to get me fired up. I would like to see more consistency out of a guy like Malkin in the playoffs. When he's on, he's unstoppable. But when he's not in the playoffs, sometimes he just disappears.
See, we go back to like a Brad Richards on the Rangers.
That's a little extreme.
No. But the point I'm going to make is the fact that I expect the Malkins, I expect the Richards, I expect the Nashes to be consistent game in and game out. Yes, you're going to have bad games. That's okay. But you have to be consistent. It's like we're going to move on here to the Capitals, and they lost Mike Ribeiro.
We're not moving on yet because I haven't asked my question.
But they moved on. That's a consistent guy. That guy is consistent. We'll touch on it more when we talk about the Capitals. But mentally, I want these guys to be tougher.
Well, yeah, and I'm with you. And let me be clear. I mean, Malkin had 16 points in the playoffs last year. When he's rolling, he's unstoppable. But there are patches where he can go 2 or 3 games where he disappears.
He pouts.
Well, those are your words. I knew they were going to come from you. But this leads into my question now. If you're a Penguins fan, this is your concern. Malkin can't have a couple bad games because you've tied up all your money in Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and now Chris Letang. So you've tied up a ton of money in 3 players. You're now paying Chris Letang $7.2 million a year after this year for quite some time. Can you win the cup doing that?
Ding, ding, ding. The other question that we got to throw underneath that, because I agree with you, is health.
Well, they all have to stay healthy because you're paying them.
But they haven't in the last few seasons, right?
Well, no, they haven't had really Crosby healthy until this past season. And then,
can you imagine this team
exploded.
if Crosby, Kunitz, Malkin, from game 1 to game 82?
I mean, they would be unstoppable.
I believe that.
Let's put it this way. If every team stays healthy all season, and that's obviously not going to happen, but let's just say somebody comes down and they tell you, look, you're going to go to Vegas and you're going to bet on a team to win the Stanley Cup. Everybody will be healthy all year. You're an idiot if you don't bet on the Penguins because they're going to win the Stanley Cup, except they don't stay healthy. And goaltending is an issue, so maybe you're not an idiot if you don't bet on the Penguins. $26 million tied up in 3 players. That worries me.
That's a lot of dough.
And you could make a case that 2 of them are the 2 best players in the world when they're playing their best, but that's still, because of what you just said, if one of them gets hurt, you're still paying them the money. And if they're not on the ice, that's not good. And yes, one of them has been hurt every year for the last couple of years.
Yeah. So,
last team in the division.
Last one.
Makes this division great, in my opinion. Now you have Crosby and Ovechkin in the same division. Washington Capitals come from the Southeast, which is is not the same as the Metro. Let's put it that way. Does the move hurt them? That's
who?
my question. Washington.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Because they go from competing with Winnipeg and Florida for a playoff spot to Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and the Rangers.
I think it makes them better.
Makes them better?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, you answered my question. How about this other one? Are they going to sign Mikhail Grabovski, or what's the deal here?
Somebody has to.
It's going to be Washington. I don't know why we're taking so long doing this. Just sign him. Washington. Here's Washington's key additions this offseason. You ready for them?
Oh, boy.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. None. They added nobody.
Okay.
Philadelphia went out and added Vincent Lecavalier, Mark Streit. The Penguins retained their guys, and they added Rob Scuderi, which for them is a pretty big deal because he's a defenseman that can make up for Fleury's mistakes. But Washington didn't add anybody, and you just touched on it before. They lost Mike Ribeiro.
Yeah, that one kind of good for Phoenix. That's a great pickup for Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
The guy is consistent. His consistency, he's not as old, but his consistency reminds me of Ray Whitney. You look at Ray Whitney's stats, that boy, year in and year out, is there. And Ribeiro's numbers are the same. Year in, year out. And they let him go. So, yeah, Bobrovsky.
Well, look at his numbers here with Dallas. Okay, this is 63, 71, 53, 78, 83, 59. Those were his point totals in all his years with Dallas. Last year with Washington, 49 points in 48 games, 21 power play assists, led the NHL. Now, yeah, he was playing with Ovechkin. So what? He was getting Ovechkin the puck. Ovechkin went on a ridiculous tear last year, and it helped to have a guy like Ribeiro feeding him the puck.
That's why I think that Washington's going to have some success in this division, because you're a competitive guy.
Okay.
I'm a competitive guy.
I'm more competitive, but yeah.
Last Sunday you came in here and you're telling me a story about a game you played against a weaker team, and it was no fun.
It's true.
It's like
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not hockey. I can score at will.
You can't go fast.
You want to play a team equal to you or better than you, because that gets the competitive juices going. That gets that competition going. These guys might think they're hot. I'm going to show them that they're not.
I like where you're going here, too, because Ovechkin always plays his best against Pittsburgh, and they're in their division now.
You're going to have 82 games under Coach Oates now. They got a new coach. It's his sophomore year, and they're going to have a lot more time with him. They're going to get more time to buy into his system. They had a short season to buy into his system, and when they did start buying into his system, they were finding success. Yes, it started with the captain, but that just goes through a roster, and I think because they are playing better teams, that this team is going to step up, and you're going to see them have more success than you think.
So you think maybe they were playing down to their competition the last couple of years and doing enough to get by, but now maybe this will raise them.
They can't go into this division and do enough to get by. They'll get crushed.
And that's the thing with this division. We're going to look at predictions here in a moment. There's a lot of teams. There's a lot of cup contenders in this division. Some of them might miss the playoffs because they're going to beat each other up.
Right.
So Ovechkin last year, 56 points, 32 goals. He went on that ridiculous tear where he was scoring pretty much every night.
Yep.
Won the Hart Trophy. Ribeiro was number 2 on the team. He's gone as far as points. He's gone. Nicholas Backstrom is now number 2 with 48 points last year. They might need a little more offense, though, to go as far as they want to go.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at 2 guys. Now, Braden Holtby is your number 1 goalie at this point. Pretty solid back there. And, Mike Green is healthy. That's good on defense. This is a solid team top to bottom. And you mentioned it. Adam Oates seems to get the most out of his guys.
Yeah. So I think they'll do okay.
Predictions?
Okay, let's go. Number one.
This is how we should do it. Let's go with our 3 playoff teams. So who are your 3 playoff teams in order? Your 3 guaranteed playoff teams.
Oof. You're going to laugh.
I'm already laughing.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Philly.
Okay.
Washington.
All right, well, I went Pittsburgh, Rangers, Philly. Those are the 3 under the new
In that
format.
order.
Yes. Under the new format, those 3 teams make the playoffs.
So you've got Pittsburgh 1, Philly 2, Rangers 3.
No, I have Rangers 2, Philly 3. How
Philly
dare
3.
you make me put words in my mouth where I have the Flyers higher than... It's already tough enough putting them 3rd.
Okay. And I've got Pittsburgh 1, Philly 2, Caps 3.
Okay. So now your 2 teams that could be wild card teams. Give me those 2.
I've got Rangers and Islanders.
Okay, I've got Washington and the Islanders, and I think Washington...
What you got? Washington 4?
Washington 4, Islanders 5. So we've got our top 5. Not in the exact same order, but we have the same 5 teams that will be fighting for playoff spots.
Right. So how do you have your bottom 3?
So I have Columbus 6th, and again, that's not a knock on Columbus, but I just think they've got to adjust, and this might be the toughest division.
Okay. See, and I have New Jersey 6, because I think that goaltending is going to win them some games.
Yeah.
They don't have the firepower they used to, but I think New Jersey will be okay.
Boy, I don't know what to do with New Jersey. I have them 7th.
And you have them 7th. And we both agree Carolina's got some wood to chop.
But I don't think Carolina's a bad team.
They're not a bad team. It's a tough division.
Yeah, you put Carolina in the Central, and they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
They might still be fighting for a playoff spot here, but boy, to make the playoffs out of this division, you have to unseat either Pittsburgh Rangers, Flyers, and or the Capitals.
I think for Carolina even to sniff a wild card, their goaltending has to stand on its head.
Yeah, Cam Ward has to play the way he played when they won the Cup.
Yep.
When he was a rookie.
I agree.
And that's asking a lot when you're facing Ovechkin and Giroux and Crosby and Tavares every night.
And Malkin.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Hockey Podcast. Feel free to email comments or questions to the show at our email address, thehockeypodcast@gmail.com.
All right, final segment here, news and notes. Couple quick things to go through before we wrap up the show. We'll start with, Doug, your favorite story, Daniel Alfredsson. I don't know if you know this, but he left the Ottawa Senators a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. I already told that story.
Okay.
I found out.
He went to Detroit. But for some reason, there was what was that this week? It wasn't even like a press conference. It was like a
He was at a
happened?
function.
Okay.
And I forget what the charity function was. And then he gave a speech. And then during the process of the speech, he divulged why he left Ottawa to go to Detroit.
Now, we've both seen / read the notes on this press conference or whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty sure that it boils down to he wanted money Ottawa wasn't going to give him.
Right.
So, in other words, it's like every other free agent move ever.
Correct.
So why is this still a story?
Because one side saying, well, they didn't do this. And the other side saying, well, they didn't do that, and we did this because we did it, and they're saying that we didn't do it, but we did do it.
Okay, so then that's where the story comes from here. How bad is it that his storied career in Ottawa is ending this way?
It's brutal. It's brutal. I mean, come on. I was shocked when I heard he was leaving because prior to the announcement of him leaving and going to Detroit, there was a story that said he was staying, and I'm going, that's awesome.
Everybody expected that, right? I mean, the thought was,
awesome.
The last 3 years, the thought was, is he done? Does he wants to go be with his family, or is he coming back to Ottawa? There was never a third option. And now, not only is there a third option, that's the one he took.
And it's like, and then I saw a story about, well, he wanted X million, and Ottawa came back with a lower amount. And it's like, Ottawa shouldn't be upset. The player shouldn't be upset. His agent shouldn't be upset. The owner of Ottawa shouldn't be upset.
Oh, he's always upset.
It's like...
He can't blame this on Matt Cook.
His agent's job is to get him the most money possible.
He did.
Alfredsson
wanted to play for a winner. He's on Detroit.
He's on Detroit.
Ottawa didn't want to pay him. They wanted to spend their money on somebody else. They got Bobby Ryan. Everybody shut up.
Be quiet.
Everybody.
It's done.
Shut up.
Done.
All right.
And I'll be honest with you. I read a couple of articles around this story.
So now you're part of the problem.
And the comments posted under, I read like 3 or 4 articles around this story, And the comments underneath from almost every single hockey fan, whether they were a Senators fan, a Red Wings fan, or just a hockey fan, were like, shut up.
And if anybody...
He's on a new team. Can we move on? Yeah, thank you.
If anybody has the right to talk, it's Ottawa fans.
Correct.
Because they're fans. They didn't have any say.
Right.
And you know, how many Ottawa fans own Alfredson jerseys or bought Alfredson jerseys for their kids? It has to be the most popular
How many years have
jersey.
they been watching him?
Yeah, so they have a right to still talk and be unhappy, although I don't want to say they're better off, but their team's going to be fine. So
yeah, that team's not hurting.
Claude Giroux, injured.
What a weird
in the
story,
oddest
man.
way. And he should, but the thought is he's going to be ready for the start of the season, right?
Yeah, they said out 5 to 6 weeks, he was golfing in a tournament, and his club shatters. And splinters from the shaft of the club, like no broken fingers or anything, they tear, like rip tendons and stuff in his
Makes me
fingers.
never want to golf because I'm such a bad golfer anyway.
And I'm like,
I didn't even know this was
it
an
just
issue.
sounded painful. I mean, what a freak accident to knock you out 5 to 6
Was the
weeks.
club made in Pittsburgh?
Probably.
Okay.
It was probably Sydney's.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead,
Here,
Claude.
go ahead. Here, Claude, use this one.
Use this one. This is great.
Yeah, it was
for you.
just a weird way to miss training.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we were talking about this just in the break there. I mean, going back to the Metro Division.
And he's still coming back from wrist injury.
Yeah. And he's got to be at full strength for Philadelphia to succeed in this division.
Absolutely.
But again, you go to this division, Ovechkin, Crosby, Malkin, Giroux, Tavares. Would it shock you if those were the top 5 point producers in the NHL this year? Now, it probably won't happen, but it wouldn't be a shock.
Would not be a shock.
So Philadelphia's got to have Claude Giroux, and right now, we should do a fantasy hockey preview show at some point. That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to do that closer to the season.
Closer to the season.
Okay.
All right.
After we've already picked our bad teams.
Okay.
Neil Yakupov.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking Elliott and
You should have to. You should have to keep your goalies from last year. I don't know if you know this about Neil Yakupov, but apparently he's going to be a good young hockey player.
Okay. So I'm just going through some hockey articles and
Something you should be allowed to do.
right? And where did it go? I see a headline that says 7 candidates for a breakout season in 2013, 2014. Right. Full disclosure, I saw it on NHL.com.
This goes back to the kind of storyline you and I have been following.
We've been saying it for how many weeks now?
He should have, if he didn't win the Calder Trophy, at least have been a finalist.
So the pundits are saying that 2013, 2014, Neil Yakupov is going to have a breakout season.
Okay.
Didn't he have one last year?
Yeah, I mean, he did play last year, right?
Yeah.
Again, I go back to you and I didn't just imagine his 17 goals, 14 assists, 31 points was tops among all
He was only
rookies.
a number 1 pick in 2012.
He was only the highest-rated rookie coming into the season and then led all the rookies in goals. I don't know what more the guy needs to do.
So last year wasn't a breakout season for a
not.
rookie?
It would appear what he needs to do is to not enjoy when he scores goals.
And that's the only thing I can think of, is that everybody had such a hissy fit over his celebration. Oh, he should be more mature. He should be He's a young person.
He's not doing anything wrong off the ice. And
His nose is clean. He respects his teammates. He respects his coach. He's not an arrogant so-and-so.
I mean, I get how he rubs some people the wrong way, and that's fine. But as somebody that follows the NFL very closely, if the guys on my team are just a little obnoxious on the ice or the field of play as opposed to getting arrested off the ice or the field of play, I'm fine with Neil Yakupov's antics on the ice.
But really, are they antics?
To me, they are not. But I can see how if you're on the other team and he scores and he's sliding down the ice like he's Theron Fleury winning Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or whatever, I can see how that might bother you a bit.
But he didn't do it every time he scored.
No, he didn't. And look, a player sees that and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to hit you harder next time you come across the middle.
Well, right. I mean, there's ways to, you know what? And I bet you the majority of the players, that's how they handle it. It's the pundits. It's guys like, unfortunately, you and me that talk about the sport, that make a big deal out of things that...
Guys like me. I'm a guy like me.
He's 19. He's a teenager. He's a teenager.
He's fine. And apparently he didn't play hockey last year, but he could have a breakout year this year.
So this season I came up greatest plan ever.
Okay.
Nail, put a Sharpie in your glove, and next time you score, go and sign your name and number on the boards behind the goal.
Got to be on the road. It's got to be on the road.
Yeah.
And it's got to be permanent marker. I want them to have to replace the glass or just leave Nail Yakupov's name just scribbled in. It's got to do it in like Calgary too, right? I mean,
Yeah, but put it on the board, right? Right on the white background with a
like
black
big,
marker.
like a big fat black
Get
marker.
the chisel, right?
Yeah.
Nail Yakupov.
Right next to Tim Hortons Donuts.
Yeah, there you go.
Tim Hortons Donuts, Nail Yakupov.
See, I don't understand a lot of old guard media members, old guard front office people. I was always taught the game will take care of itself. The locker room will take care of itself. And to have some good young energy in the game.
It's better for the game.
Isn't it?
Well, but here's the thing. Like, Ovechkin used to do this, and everybody was like, well, I guess it's good for the game because it gets people talking about it. But everybody's just ignoring that Nail Yakupov existed last year, so maybe everybody isn't talking about it.
Absolutely. Ovechkin, what does he do when he scores?
Oh, he acts like the stick is on fire and he's heating his hands. I mean, come on.
Or he jumps into the glass.
Just for the simple fact that eventually one of these guys is going to make Don Cherry's head explode, you have to have them in the game. And I'll tell you what, he's a fun guy to watch play hockey, too.
I love it.
Last story, we're going to do one more?
Yeah, good news for the NHL.
Okay.
They finally get the deal in Phoenix done.
True.
And then, unfortunately, the next day,
New Jersey's like, hey, what about us?
Hey, New Jersey's like, we're being taken over by the NHL. And Gary Bettman's head's exploding, going, I just went through this. I don't want to do it again.
I'm sure at some level, growing up, Gary Bettman, like all hockey fans, wanted to own a hockey team. But he probably didn't want to own all of them.
Right. It's like, I just want to manage the franchise.
But New Jersey gets it.
They get a deal done.
Under control, yeah. So they'll be set for the upcoming
Well, the great
season.
thing is that the new owner is
not Ilya Kovalchuk.
Is Josh Harris,
Okay.
who owns the Philadelphia 76ers.
There you go.
So he's familiar with the area, media-wise, all that stuff. And he said, I'm going to read you a quote, okay, after, the announcement was made.
Are you going to read it in a Jersey accent?
I can't do that, man. No, a Philly accent.
Or some sort of hybrid?
So Mr. Harris is a very successful businessman. And following the sale, he goes, we've had a lot of success at identifying literally the best, highest quality management teams and then bringing them into situations and letting them do their thing and holding them accountable. Other people may like to meddle in it. What we like to do, in essence, is agree what the vision is, what the business plan is, and then resource it and allow people to do their jobs. How refreshing is that? And when I read that, all I could think of was the Dallas Cowboys. I know it's not a hockey thing,
horrible.
But Jerry Jones, stop meddling in it. Find the team, find the front office, find the coaching staff, let them do. And it was just so refreshing to see that a guy in today's society is going, I'm going to buy the team because I want the team. I think the team can be successful. Lou is still going to be in charge of hockey operations.
Happy as always, Lou Lamoriello.
We're going to put in some new business people in the front office, and it's going to be a solid team, and we're going to be successful. We're going to make money. We're going to win hockey games. And it's just like, and we're going to let you go do it.
Let the hockey people do the hockey stuff.
And let the business people do the business stuff. And guess what? You're all accountable.
The one thing I don't agree with you with is I don't think the Devils are going to be winning games this year. But down the line, I see what you're saying. It's the right philosophy. Now you just got to get the players back in place.
Well, and that cloud's gone now. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. The cloud's gone. Ownership is settled. Well before training camp, well before the first regular season game. So everybody can go to work, take a deep breath, and we're going to go.
Just hang out in New Jersey. That is it for episode 17. Next week, we'll head west and wrap up our division-by-division preview with a look at the ultra-competitive Pacific Division.
Lou! That's Luke's favorite sound, huh, buddy? That's right.
That's all sorts of
Vancouver
terrible.
Canucks.
Plus, whatever else happens in the next 7 days, we'll be there. Thanks for listening to the Hockey Podcast.